Hey guys, David here from Nintendo3DSblog.com, and first up, you may realise that the video quality is not as good as it usually would be, because usually I'd be using this camera, which is the Canon 60D, but I just got a new computer. I'm just testing out the webcam on that. I figure that if I can record straight to the computer, it might just be a bit easier to edit the videos, and just get these videos up quicker and that kind of thing. That's not to say I'll definitely use the webcam all the time. I may still use a Canon 60D every now and then, but I thought I may as well give it a shot. Anyway, so the biggest story over the past couple of weeks has related to the price drop of the 3DS. Obviously, there's been a bit of contention between people who love the price drop and hate the price drop, especially if you're an early adopter. A lot of people don't really like it, even though we are getting a bunch of free games for it. And to address that, Iwata, the president of Nintendo of Japan, has actually sent out a letter to people in Japan, and it sort of applies to us anyway, basically just apologising for it. There's nothing really too specific he says that's worth mentioning in this video, but you can check out the link in the description below for the full letter. It's pretty much what you'd expect him to say, but it still feels pretty genuine. And as far as the free games we're getting for being early adopters, some people are a bit confused about what's going on there. So basically, from September 1st onwards, you're able to get the free 10 NES games. And then at some point this year we get the GBA games, but we don't really know exactly when we're getting those. And as far as I'm aware, all you have to do to get those free games is to connect to the eShop via the 3DS before August 12th. So before the price drop goes through, just connect to the eShop and you should automatically be a part of the Ambassador program, which is how you get the free games. And speaking of the free GBA games, in the previous video I mentioned the possibility of Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3, and Kirby and the Amazing Mirror being a couple of the free games for early adopters. This was coming straight from a Nintendo representative. It seemed perfectly legitimate and true and all that kind of stuff. I did mention the possibility of it not being 100% confirmed, and that has sort of come back to bite us in that they may not be coming to the 3DS, as in that Nintendo rep may have actually been wrong. So what's happened is Nintendo has sent out a few follow-up emails basically saying that information may have been incorrect. It's not a 100% confirmation it's not correct, but you do sort of get that feeling. So I guess if you're really looking forward to those games, maybe lower your expectations a little bit, because they could maybe just not happen, which definitely would suck, but I'll definitely let you know how that story develops. And something else that sucks is that Capcom has responded to the fan movement to bring Mega Man Legends 3 back from the dead, and they're not going to budge. Even though there's a Facebook page and petitions and a lot of support for the game, they're still not going to bring it back. At least not at the moment. They're very clear that they have no plans to resume development, and it just seems like we're stuck now. Like, I'm still completely baffled that they didn't release the prototype version of the game, just to really sort of gauge response to it. But either way, keep fighting the fight, I guess. Maybe if we keep pushing for it, they'll eventually make it. At the moment though, it's not going to happen. And the game I mentioned in the previous video was Skylanders Spyro's Adventure. First thing up, I just want to clarify something. This is not like a traditional Spyro game. You don't just control Spyro. It is actually like a spin-off type of game where you control one of 32 different creatures, one of which just happens to be Spyro. So it's like the same universe, same mechanics sort of, but it's not strictly a Spyro game. Anyway, the reason I bring this game up again is because there is a gameplay video for the 3DS, and you get a pretty decent look at the game. Doesn't seem particularly interesting to me. It seems like a pretty basic platformer. There is still the use of the figurines like I mentioned in the previous video, which is very, very cool, but even so, it's a pretty big gimmick if the game is attached to isn't that interesting. And also at the end of the video, it's mentioned that the game costs $69.99. Maybe that's not the 3DS version, although it is a 3DS focused video, but it sounds like it's going to be pretty expensive. And that is because there is a separate peripheral included with the game, along with some figurines, so I can understand the higher cost, but you know, $70 for a 3DS game, that's a ton of money. And one game I know plenty of people are excited for is Resident Evil Revelations, and the official website for the game has been launched. There's nothing really too compelling to check out, but there are a few new screenshots which you can see here, and of course the game is looking very, very good. This is still one of the prettiest games on the 3DS, and that comes out next year, so you still have to wait for a bit, but definitely worth checking out. Something you can check out much sooner though is Mario Kart 7, which comes out this December. We don't really have any news about it, but we do have this logo, which was recently released, and there's also a bunch of artwork which was old, sort of, but I just never mentioned it. So yeah, you can check out the links to that in the description below, along with everything else I mentioned today, the videos and other stories and that kind of stuff. But I guess that is it for now, so I will talk to you later.